We're so excited that you're here. This is, the energy in this room tonight is just so fun. I love it. I'm Terry Sanchez. On behalf of the Newport Beach Public Library, welcome to our Meet the Author event featuring our local author, Cristina LePort. We are just thrilled that you're here. I want to make sure that I thank the Friends of the Library. It is because of the Friends and their generous sponsorship that we are able to host outstanding authors like Dr. LePort. I also want to thank Creating Conversations bookseller for being here this evening. If you have not already, you can purchase a book and have it signed at the conclusion of the program. At this time, if you haven't already, I'd like to ask you to set your phones to silent or airplane mode, whatever your preference is. We are so pleased to present to you tonight Dr. Cristina LePort and her debut novel, Dissection. Dr. LePort was born in Bologna, Italy, where she attended medical school. She then completed her medical residency at Long Island College Hospital in Brooklyn and her cardiology fellowship at UCLA. She's a local cardiologist. In fact, I believe some of her patients may even be in the audience tonight. She has lived in Corona del Mar for over 20 years with her husband, Peter. They have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. We will be raffling off a copy of her book tonight, so hopefully you all got your raffle tickets. If you didn't, feel free to grab one. Emily's back there. And we will be selling books at the end. The line is actually going to go out that, just so you know, out that glass door in the back, and it's going to come around here, and then it'll swing in here. And you'll be able to purchase and have your book signed and ask any other questions. We will also be having a time for Q&A at the conclusion. If you think of a question during the program, we'll be coming around with index cards and pencils, and you can write them, and we'll take them from you. I will be asking all the questions to her. Just sign of the times, we're not sharing microphones anymore, so that's how we're doing things. Dissection combines 2 of Dr. LePort's 2 passions, medicine and writing. It's her first published novel, published by Bancroft Press. Thank you for being here. And we are thrilled to help her launch it. We love our local authors. She's been a joy to work with in planning tonight's event. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Cristina LePort.
Thank you very much, Terry Sanchez. She was unbelievable. She put your ear because of her. She took all my requests to the very last second. So thank you, and thank you to the library for having this. I'm really kind of overwhelmed. I didn't expect all this turnout. I want to thank you all for being here. This is my first book signing. You know how long I waited? And when I was a little nervous, you know, I'm not used to talking publicly, I said, Jesus, you wanted it so badly, and now you're nervous? I mean, are you nuts? I mean, you should be so happy, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. You're here on a Thursday, you know, date night. So thank you, thank you. So I heard that there's some either authors or wannabe authors, soon-to-be authors in the room. Are there? Anybody? Or anybody an author? Maybe that's good, because because in 1950s, a famous author said that the best thing you can do for a new writer is to give him the book, okay, I'm just a little nervous here, The Element of Style. I read it, so I should know, right? So, you know, it's a very good book. Every writer who writes, you know, fiction should read that book. Well, the second best thing you can do for a new writer is to shoot him while he's still happy. So, indeed, the road to authorhood is paved with grief and is paved with, you know, disappointments. Out of all the things, you know, all the submission that agents and publishers get, it's only about 2 out of 100 that turns out to, you know, into a book, to a published book. So 2%, it sounds dismal. Now, the truth is that, 95% of the stuff the agents and publisher get, it's crap. I've been guilty to saying crap to agents originally. So if you take, the 5% of well-written book, and you take that 1% is really part of that 5. So it's like, 1 out of 5 well-written books get published. So it's a little bit better, it's 20%. I mean, it's not great, but, it's a little bit better. So okay, you say, I don't want any of this stress. If you're a writer, say, who cares? I'm going to self-publish. Okay, you can self-publish today. It's possible to self-publish, a lot more possible than in the past. Okay, you self-publish, but if you're not Andy Weir, it's not going to be that easy to self-publish. Andy Weir is the one who wrote The Martian. The Martian, there was this book, this movie, the book, and then, the movie was made out of the book. And, there was this astronaut who gets stranded in Mars and uses poop, to grow the plants so it can survive, in Mars and all that. Well, Andy Weir wrote that book. He's an engineer. He knows what he's writing about. So he wrote this book, and then he didn't even write to publish it. He just wanted to give it to his friends. He just put one chapter at a time, on Facebook. And then at the end, his friend said, well, we don't want to have all these little chapters. Just put it on Amazon so we can have the whole book. And he said, well, everybody wants to read this book already read it, so he didn't want to charge anything. But Amazon, said, well, you can't do that. So he charged 99 cents, and he made $40 million on one originally self-published book because, it went viral. Got calls from agent, publisher, movie producer. So he was like, whoa. But unless, you're like him, you self-publish a book, and your book is going to sell 200 to 250 copies to your friends and family. You can't just walk into Barnes and Nobles and says, I just uploaded my novel on Amazon. How many would you like to buy? So they're going to tell you to take a hike and find a publisher. So you find a publisher, and you expose your book to maybe, thousands of readers instead of hundreds. And then, you have a little better chance of becoming a bestseller, like about 1 in 1,000. So it's, the whole thing is kind of hard, right? So having said all this, there is hope. There is hope because look at this. It's solid, it's right here. And, it did not happen by luck, I can tell you. There was no luck about this. It was all hard work. So, to want-to-be writers, I could say, there is hope because, if you really want something very badly, you can work very hard and maybe it can happen to you because it happened to me. So, it can apply to other things. Maybe you want something really, really badly. Maybe you can take something home from my presentation that, if you want something really, really badly, there is some chance you may get it. You actually can get it. Maybe you can get some inspiration. I don't know. So, thinking back, it's kind of funny because when I was in school in Italy, the subject I hated the most was writing. There was this nightmare once a week in Italian, we call il tema, that's the theme. So you went to school and they gave you this title. And in 2 hours you had to write something about, whatever the title. And I never could care less about these titles. I mean, how did you spend your summer vacation? And I was sitting next to a girl. I knew how she spent the summer vacation. She was making out with a guy I liked, and I wanted to bash her teeth in. So, but, nobody was interested in that story. So, I just hate it. So fast forward now to medical school, and I finished my medical school. Now I came to the United States to do my internship and, by internal medicine residency. And the only English I know then was the one that I had just learned in the prior few months when I was working at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York as a nurse's aide. So since I was in charge of bedpans, My vocabulary was limited, English vocabulary was limited to a couple of bodily functions. And it was a good start for a doctor, you know, but not really good enough to interview patients about all the other problems they might have. So I walk into, you know, Long Island College Hospital. It's my first night of internship. I have my short little jackets for intern. And next to my beeper in the pocket, there is this tiny Italian English dictionary. And I walk in, and by 4 o'clock in the morning, after 4 cardiac arrests and 5 admission, the little sucker flew out of the window. I hope it didn't hit anybody in the head because it was a tall building. So that was gone. I mean, little did I know that I never could have imagined that eventually I would write a novel in English, and let alone, you know, get a publisher for it and get praises from author I admire. I mean, I had no idea that that could possibly happen. So my passion, you know, the interest in writing fiction came about 2 decades later. And it was in the middle of my midlife crisis as an internal medicine doctor. So I had practiced internal medicine for about 17 years. And I felt, you know, I needed different challenges. I guess I was born a sucker for punishment. So I was trying to get into a cardiology fellowship, which is another old story. It's extremely difficult to do when you're in your 40s. So I'm waiting to get there, and so I read The Art of Fiction by Ayn Rand. And some of you may know Ayn Rand, you know, a famous author. Her fiction is very famous, you know, Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead. But she wrote also nonfiction. And actually, if one could actually learn everything that is in this little book, there is everything that you need to be a good author in that book. So I read that book, and I became really intrigued. You know, like as an author, you enter this world of your choice, and you can make anything you want possible. You know, it's just, you can make it happen. And you can create characters that you actually, you know, want to meet. So I figure I'm going to write a novel. And as far as, you know, choosing what world, you know, would I choose? So, well, it was, you know, the world that I was in it, you know, already for 20 years. So it was the medical world. I never had any doubts. If I was going to write a novel, I was going to write medical thrillers. So it's actually, you know, the medical world is an incredible backdrop for thrillers, because there are things in common, you know. First of all, it deals with life and death. So you need to have, you know, high stakes on a thriller. Well, what's higher than life and death? So the second thing, there is always this pressure of time, you know, like you gotta find out what's wrong with the patient, otherwise he might die. At the same time, you know, the pressure of time in a thriller, that's what gives you the suspense, you know, like, you know, you gotta do this, otherwise something horrible is gonna happen, all that. And to be truthful, you know, the quality of a doctor kind of overlap with the quality of a successful author. Both of them, they have to know, you know, to read people. I have to read people because, you know, to find out what's wrong with them medically. And good authors, they have to read people because where do you think the characters come from? They come, you know, little bits from the people you know. I mean, Jack Mulville is my brother-in-law. He's right here, Bob. Thank you very much for giving me with your name. So, you know, the other thing that author and writers have to do, they have to know how to collect clues. Like, you know, they have to collect clues and then also integrate them all in a sum. The doctor to make a diagnosis, and, you know, an author to finally, you know, come to resolve, you know, this mystery and all that. So I decided, you know, that I was going to write, you know, a novel. So it took me a while, you know, to write a novel. It took me a long time because I was going through cardiology fellowship, so I dropped it for years. I picked it up, but then finally I said, I'm going to finish this book, and I just focus until I finally was done. So I finished, I thought it was a novel, you know. I thought I finished a novel. So I gave it to my husband. My husband is my alpha reader. No, your alpha reader is the guy, the poor soul that gets, you know, the messed up first drafts. Thank you. So, you know, my husband is in charge of eliminating all my italics. So italics, not italics. In my vocabulary, italics are not those little letters that look like, you know, the Tower of Pisa. The italics is everything, all the stuff that gives away the fact that English is not my first language. So when it was done with that, I sent it to my friend who's a published author, and I'm waiting to see how good my novel is. Luckily, she was truthful, because that's how I learned what I didn't know and I needed to know in order to get this book somewhere, you know, to be published. So, because, you know, when you read a book, you don't really care about, is it in first person, in third person, is it happening now, it happened in the past, and the dialogues, there are little things called tags. You don't care about all that because you're reading it. But when you write it, unless you know about that stuff, there is zero chance that you're going to get an agent or a publisher. You absolutely need to know. It's the trick of the trade. So in order to, you know, to read the trick of the trade, I hired a writing coach. And for 3 very painful years, we went through every word of my first book. So I was back in school, you know, I was getting these things, you know, all red marks and then things in the margins like, you've got to be kidding me. It's 100 pages and nothing, all in capitals, nothing has happened. It's various exclamation point. So I just went back and forth and all that. Okay, so we finally thought we had, you know, some kind of semi-decent book there. So we started to ship it to agents. That's when the problem starts. You know, you gotta, the agents are the buffers between the book and the publisher. So you gotta write this thing that's called query. The query is a letter that you send together with some sample of the book. So in the letter, the first, you know, it's a short letter. The first paragraph, you tell them who you are. The second paragraph, you tell them, why in the hell did you start writing this book in the first place? The third paragraph is, you know, what's the book about? And then you, so to speak, you're down to your knees to beg him to please ask for the full manuscript and not just the 3 miserable pages they want to read right now. So then, you know, you send all these queries. There are about a few hundred agents. You pick the ones, you know, they want the book, the genre that you want to write, that you want to publish, and you send them, and then you wait. And, you know, I had read, I mean, a rejection, so, you know, I was kind of bracing myself, trying to grow a crocodile skin, but I never expected the tsunami I got. I mean, it was unbelievable. One rejection after another. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Sometimes you get no answer whatsoever, nada. Never heard again after you send the query. Sometimes you get, you know, these canned things, you know. Dear Dr. LePort, thank you for your wonderful query. We were so pleased to see these pages and all that. We are 100% sure that somebody will find a home. How sweet is that for your book? A home for my book. But not now and not us, somebody else. That's what happens. Okay? So you get addicted to your phone. You're like slave of your phone because you want to look at it. But then, you know, you don't want to look at it because you know there is the rejection du jour in your phone today. So, you know, you're just like, you know, you don't know what to do with your phone. So, all right, so all this was going on for, you know, quite some times. And one night, I was so discouraged because I really didn't know where to turn, and I'm just getting ready to go to sleep. And there is a commercial on TV about aspirin. And the air aspirin. So there is this man is sitting at a meeting, and his secretary hands him a card. And the card says, your heart attack will arrive tomorrow. And then the voice says, well, Mr. So-and-so didn't get an announcement about his heart attack, and now he has to take aspirin to prevent the second heart attack. So I stopped cold. I said, boy, that's a thriller. A card, and I said, that's going to be my next book. Smack in the middle of cardiology, perfect. Somebody's going to get a card. Your heart attack will arrive within an hour. That's crazy. That's great. So that's how Dissection was born, that night. That was my next book. So I said, the hell with first book. This is my book. That's one that's going to make it. Okay, so why dissection? So a dissection is, what happens is that the artery has 3 layers, the wall of the artery has 3 layers. And if there is a lesion on the very internal, the first layer, and the arterial blood is extremely high pressure because, it's pumped by the heart, so it gets through the little lesions. And then it forms like a channel, but it just splits the first and second layer apart like Velcro, just shoo. And then the blood goes there and it continues to dig there, and it forms a false lumen. And every time that it encroaches a branch, the branch closes because, it's got 2 lumens, instead of 1. And all the tissues and the organs that this branch goes to, they may get damaged or die. That's how people can get, strokes, heart attack, and all that. Now, if that process continues and the arteries, the wall becomes very weak, it can burst open and all the blood gushes out, and the patient dies of exsanguination. What a great story for a thriller. Now, of course, it took me a long time to wrap around the whole plot around that one card. I had nothing else but that one card. So I was, driving around, missing freeway exits, tried to think about it for weeks. And, at night I would get up in the middle of the night, this idea popped into my mind how to do it. Because, who's sending the cards, what in his right or wrong mind, why, and then what's going to happen, how is going to enact the threat, all that. So, I was thinking about all the time, trying not to kill patients in the process because, my mind was like all these ideas swirling there. So, I did that, and then this time I said, I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm going to hire an high-power editor because that's what I need. I know, I got it. I know what to do. So I hired a very good editor, Bill Thompson. It was retired, but in the past, he had actually helped, it was in a publishing house who published, the first book of Stephen King and then Grisham. So I figure I got this editor, and I learned a lot from him. He, went through the book, we fixed this and that, and then we sent it to agents. And I still got rejected like crazy. And I was really depressed because I felt I'm doing everything right. And the rejection took any time, from like minutes to months, just to give you an idea of the 2 extreme. So I'm there, preparing my query, right? So it takes me an hour because I check all the comments, because God forbid you make a mistake. I mean, you think they're going to read your book? If there's an error, so you do everything. Then you better make sure that you got the pronoun of the agent right, because they have to look, is that a her and she, or a he and a him and they and it, so you got it right. So you'll put it in. So I got it all right, everything is perfect, and I'm there, okay, I'm gonna click, then I got this, little arrow, and then I say, okay, I'm gonna click it, but then I have to make sure the autocorrect, because at the very end, zam, it puts in something that's extremely embarrassed, and you can't take it back because you already sent it. So, okay, everything is perfect, right? Okay, I click it, I hold my breath. 5 minutes later, bam, my query's in the toilet. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I mean, what is this agent, what is he doing? Like, he's there with his phone and okay, bam, bam, it's like a video game to him, it's like 5 minutes. On the other hand, I got a email, Dear Dr. LePort, I'm a little behind in my emails, sorry. 18 months. You can make 2 babies in 18 months. That's how little behind you are. And then the reasons why I got rejected. The reasons, I mean, it would be really funny if it weren't tragic, okay? So, your book is too male. Too male. Okay, what does that mean? That I'm now writing the pinkish little, the pink little, fuzzy, lacy things that a woman is supposed to write? I thought it was a compliment. That actually men can read it without throwing up. I mean, so it was too political. Don't even think of doing this with the election going on. It was too slow. If it goes any faster, you're going to take off in orbit. It was too popular. Would you want to sell books? I mean, the funniest one of all, he had too many curses. Sorry, Bob, Jack Mulville likes to curse. Okay, so I got this, because she really liked the book, this agent, too many curses, so I got it. I go home, and I, search all the 4-letter words that start with F and S, and I replace them all. And I send it back, and there's still a lot of curses. I said, like what? Well, like, darn and hell. Okay. So it was just like, like you get to a point that you read these things, and your eyes go very fast. They scroll down to all the crap they tell you that your book is so good and all that. But so you look for the but, the stomach sinking 3-letter words, and it's always there. You don't even want to go, to dinner with your family, your friends, because how's the book going? It's the first thing they ask you. It's like the book. The book is like, ain't going anywhere. So I was so desperate that I was starting to Google, how to self-publish. And of course, like, you go and Google it, you put down how to self, and you get all these people coming out of the wood, they tell you they want to help you. So there was one guy, it was a coach to find an agent. I mean, when I saw that, I couldn't believe somebody actually makes a living doing that, coach to find an agent. But it turns out this guy knew what he was doing. So I figure, that's it. That's the last time I'm going to try. I'm going to hire this guy, coach to find an agent. And the only thing he did was he reshuffled my query. And we sent it out to the same agents, to the same few hundred agents, and I got 10 requests for manuscript on the query reshuffling. The book was exactly the same, because nobody has read it before. So actually, a few months later, I got, the email. You can get the phone call or the email. That's the one that they tell you that you got an offer, an agent that offers you to represent your book. So I still remember that. I was in line for a bathroom at a conference. So what do you do when you're in line for a bathroom? You look at your phone to see if they have any bots there. So I read and scroll down real fast, through all the little crap, and there is no but. There is an offer of representation here. So I'm like, leaning on the wall, trying not to pass out, and I'm looking around for somebody I know to tell them that I got an agent. And, I just wanted to hear myself saying it, so I knew it was real. So 2 hours later, I talked to my new agent, very good agent, Bob DeForio agency, very experienced, thank you, Bob, very good. So the first thing he tells me, do you know what it was? Cristina, I don't know if I can sell your book to a publisher. That's the first thing. So you think I listened? Whew. I just got an agent. Hey, after all this trouble, I got an agent. So I never heard that. Never listened to that. I thought I hit a home run. Instead, I was in first base. It took 3 more years. 3 more years to get a publisher after I got an agent. And every rejection, trust me, hurts. They all hurt. And so finally, after all this struggle, I finally got, a publisher. And he's right here, and he made it all happen. Bruce Bort, thank you very much. It was wonderful. But even that did not happen the way I thought it was going to happen. I thought that in the unlikely event of an offer for publication, sounds like an airplane, in the unlikely event of an emergency, So, no, in the unlikely event, I thought I was going to stand in my office, check the emails, no but, offer for publication. I peel myself off the ceiling, get down to the floor, roll to the waiting room screaming. Luckily, it didn't happen that way, otherwise they probably would have committed me. But because there was still a little bit of back and forth, between the agent and the publisher and the contract, this and that. And I was at the point that, everything was a disaster. So, so the agent sent the email, I'm CC, and then he comes out, it's 3 minutes, he hasn't responded yet. My God, he doesn't want my book, he changed his mind, It's like, that's where you are after all this. But at the end, the contract was here, everything was good. You know what it feels like to have a contract after all this? It feels like that Italo-American song, That's Amore. There is a good line there. It says, if you walk in a dream, but you're not dreaming, signore. That's how it feels to get a publishing contract after all that I went through. So now you know that how good it must feel. And when you get that box of books, you get the ARCs, the advanced reader copies. So you open the box, and there's the books, this is my book. My name is on it, and everything I wrote is inside, and it's going to go out, and everybody's going to read it. It's not just for me, but people are actually going to read what I wrote, So it's just like, the thought of the birth of my children came to mind. And sure enough, there was a happy birthday card inside the box on my ARCs. Good touch. I guess it's not an unusual thought, There's a birth of the book there. So now you see that, nothing really happened by luck with this book. I researched, I did everything, study, planned, and executed, never left any stone unturned. And every time I got down, I got back up into the race, like, Frank Sinatra's son, that's life. So, and my family was aware. My daughter gave me this incredible card, There's a Leonardo da Vinci quote. It says, he had long since come to my attention. The people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them, but they went out and happened to things. Well, that's true. In the past, sometimes, told me I'm like a tank. That when I want something, I just go, don't let anything in my way, stand in my way, I just go get it. And I thought it was a very good compliment. I thought it was just, my essence, that's the way I am. Unfortunately, it was my ex-husband explaining why he couldn't stand me, so, I knew I had to get divorced. So, in any case, that's it, it's done. This is the book. I thought I had author in my audience, so I would have told him, don't give up. Fortunately, in the end, the last word doesn't belong with the agent, doesn't belong with the authors, but belongs with the readers. Thank God for that. So enjoy my book.
Cristina, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey. It's so fun to listen to just your perseverance and not giving up. We do have some questions, and then we will raffle. Once we go through the Q&A, we'll raffle off that copy of that book. So if you didn't get your raffle ticket, make sure you get it. And then also, books will be for sale afterwards. You probably noticed your cards on your seats when you sat down. So if you haven't read the book, read it and you'll get it. But
Everybody
if you
feeling okay?
Yeah.
No chest
It's been
pain.
about an hour. If you do purchase a book, feel free, if you dare, to write your name on the card, and then you can put it in the title page, and then she'll be able to write without having to ask you to spell your name, and she'll personally sign the book for you. So, okay, couple questions. First question: did you take any writing classes prior to writing the book?
No, I never did, and that's why I had to take private lessons from my writing coach. That was the one, you know, with the, what, you gotta be kidding, on the, that was the 3 years of private suffering to learn the trick of the trade.
Wow. Okay. Are any of the characters in Dissection inspired by actual people you work with?
Well, one is, this is Jack Mulville is right here. My sister is the biophysicist, Silvana. So certainly that's how you're going to get the characters is, you know, of course, you know, you change them, but it's good to have a person in mind, you know, for the dialogue and all that. And then, of course, you know, if you're a good author, you have to put yourself into the person when you do dialogue. So I always do that. Actually, Jack Mulville was the one I liked the best because he curses all the time. Gives you a sense of freedom, you know, to be yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. With a busy doctor's schedule, when do you do your writing?
Yeah, I did my writing usually, you know, in the evening and the weekends. Now I have a little bit more time because I see patients 3 days a week. So the other days, so unless I have somebody in a hospital, I can have a little extra time to write.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long does it typically take to write a novel?
Yeah. Well, my first novel took a long time because it was just the beginning, so I had to drop it. I went to cardiology, fellowship. But this novel, it took me a year. So it wasn't too bad to write the first draft. And then, of course, it takes much longer, you know, to edit it because you have to go through many different kind of editing. And,
Seems like the agent and the publishing part takes longer than the actual writing of it.
Definitely. I had a great time writing this book. I mean, I had fun. Even the political part, you know, I had to research. There were times, you know, my husband was afraid that the FBI would show up because I was researching, you know, the position of nuclear weapons and, you know, weapon of mass destruction. And I was Googling all that, so. But I had a great time writing the book. It was the publishing part that was brutal. It was the most difficult ever things I've done in my life. Perhaps not the most important, but certainly the most difficult.
Okay. So I have my last question. If anyone has a question that they have thought of, raise your hand. Emily can bring you over a pencil and paper. Otherwise, this is going to be our last question before we do our raffle. Ready?
Yeah.
Was it challenging to figure out how to write about medical things for a non-medical average reader to follow?
Well, you know, I had to obviously consider that my readers were not going to be doctors, were not going to be in the medical field. So that's very important. Otherwise, you bore people to death if they don't understand what they're reading. So, yeah, so I really pay attention to that. I mean, I never consider, I mean, I knew that my colleagues probably, you know, that a lot of my colleagues, they enjoy reading my book and all that, but, you know, the majority, the bulk of my readers are not going to be medical people, you know. So definitely it was somewhat challenging.
Okay, well then let's get to our raffle. Oh, okay. We've got a handful. Thank you. Okay. Are you going to write a second book?
Well, actually, it's good because I wrote already 4 other books. It took so long to get this one published that I have 4 other books. One is a prequel to this one and 2 sequels. So, and another one is a science fiction separate. But I did a lot of writing because, you know, when you get all this, I mean, the best way really to face rejection is to go home and write more. I found that that's really the only thing you can do because then you can try to write better. So, you know, so you fight it. That's how you fight it.
Okay, and then I think you would just answer this. Where can we get the first book? So you're talking about the prequel?
The first, well, ask Bruce Bort. Where could we get the first book? He has to get it.
Okay.
He has to do it himself, you know. It depends on how this one goes. So if you like this one, then maybe other ones will follow.
Oh. One more question. Is there going to be a movie?
I hope so. Anybody knows the producer?
It would make a great movie.
I think
It-
so.
it really would.
We're trying.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
We're definitely open.
Can you do the honors?
Okay.
Let me mix them up. Everyone get your cards ready.
Okay.
Are your
let's
tickets
see.
ready?
So this number here, 7966896. 7966896.
Is that you? Let's see. Let me just verify. 7966896.
That's right.
Congratulations. There you go. Absolutely. And then I'm going to have you come over and
Okay.
sit. Thank you so much once again, Cristina, for sharing your story. Thank you all for being here.
Okay. Did you have a question?
Oh, okay. We have one more question from the publisher.
How do you like promoting your books?
Well, I guess I'm getting used to it.
If you'd like to
I
purchase
like
a book,
it.
we're actually, the line's going to go out that door where Emily is. She's going to open it right now, and it's going to come out here and come this way, and you can purchase a book and have Cristina sign it for you. Thank you all.
Okay.
I'm going to have you come back there before everyone
I go
gets up.
there?
Yeah, just right